Doesn't matter who you are, nothing quite beats that excitement of getting that brand new thing. Now, if that brand new thing is your very first gaming PC, whether it's pre-built or you're building it yourself, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure you set it up right. Now, if you've done this before, this is going to seem pretty arbitrary to you, but this video is for those who have never even unboxed a PC or messed with one that much, plugged things in. We're going to be doing all of those things in this video. So I'll try to keep it concise. We'll cover the main things that can trip people up, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. And if it is, please hit that like button, maybe hit the subscribe button, because the videos that I make are aimed at people who are new to this hobby. So let's get started. Now, those of you who've been watching my channel a while will know that I've done so many unboxings and, setup guides every time I do a live stream. Most of the ones I've done where I've unboxed a PC from a pre-built system integrator, like your iBuyPower, Skytech, yada yada, those have all been on the YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the actual long videos, the VODs from those streams, they all exist under Stream VODs. It's a whole playlist. And you can actually watch as I unbox it, go over checking things out. This whole process you're about to see, but if you want to get the real detail, you can check out that playlist. What are we looking at here as our example? Well, this right here is a Skytech Azure 2 that I reviewed a few months ago. It's already out of the box, clearly, but thankfully, because of those aforementioned streams. Let me show you what that looks like. Essentially, you want to get your box, and sometimes there's going to be double boxing. You're going to have an outer box and an inner box with maybe some extra things, accoutrement, included inside. The double boxing is to help protect your system from the rigors of our wonderful modern shipping industry. So generally, I like to see that because that's one thing that I do. I evaluate this experience right here. If you find that you're unboxing your PC and it's like, man, they could have packed this better and they could have done this better, please share your story in the SI Testimonials group of channels in our Discord, which is linked in the description below. If you have a great experience, feel free to do the same. The more people share their stories, the more informed our community members will be when they go to make their own purchases. Thank you in advance if you decide to do that. Now, you'll notice that I will remove the inner box from the outer box if that's the case. And then there are two very important things that I will go over. First one is never throw away your main packaging. The main box for the PC, the styrofoam or closed cell foam that is used to keep it safe in there, and any other packaging that's in there. That actually includes what you might find inside the PC, which is going to be your Instapack. But we'll get to that when we get to inspecting the PC. Now, the other thing that you'll notice me doing is I generally try to let gravity help me. Now, because I have to show what I'm doing, I can't really just do it like on the floor. That's not really possible to just sort of. That's where I would recommend you do pretty much. Do what you see me doing here on the floor. I have to do it in a way that everybody can see. You don't have to do that. And then just carefully remove each piece of styrofoam, sort of like lifting up a corner. And you're also going to need to take off any plastic covering or fabric covering over the PC. And you're done with that. Put all of the stuff that you just removed from the PC into that box you just took it out from, and try to leave a little space in there because we're going to be putting a glass panel in there temporarily here in a second. Now that you have your PC out of its box, you're going to notice that it doesn't quite look like this, where it's like ready to go, although this isn't quite ready. We'll get to that part later. But it's got stuff in there. What's with the stuff? Well, what you're probably seeing is Instapack, which is a sort of bag with chemicals in it, and when you pop that bag, it mixes, and then they expand and they make foam, and that forms to whatever enclosure it's been put into, and then it will harden, solidify. So that is what you're probably seeing in there, and you have to be careful with this stuff. So what you'll do, different PC cases, like this is the Montech Sky 2 right here, really, really cool case. They might have different methods of removing the glass side panel. It might be one where you just pop it off that way, or like with this one, it's held on with 2 thumb screws right here. Now, these are meant to be removed without having to use tools, but you may want to have a screwdriver handy because sometimes these are tightened a little bit more than what your fingers can actually untighten. So you can just start it like that, and the rest of it you do with your thumbs and fingers, thumb screws. Now, what I like to see here is this. These are captive thumb screws, so they don't actually come out when you unscrew them, they stay in the side panel. Don't just put this leaned up against something in your carpet or hardwood floor or whatever. You have the box with the styrofoam and everything in it, just slide it in there for now. Now, clearly there's no foam in here, but here you can see me carefully removing that foam. It can be pretty tight in there. And that foam that has sort of a flimsy plastic around it that can catch on different cables that are connected to your motherboard. So you don't want to just yank that out of there. And if you see multiple pieces, take a picture of how those pieces are in there. So if you ever have to pack up your system to send it back to the system integrator when they're going to fix it for you, but you have to send it back to them safely for them to do that, you want to make sure you put those pieces back in the way that you got them. You could even take a Sharpie and sort of mark 1, 2, just to show the order of how you remove them, and then just reverse that to put them back in. Once you have those safely removed, put those as well in your box where all your other packing materials are. Don't lose that stuff and don't throw it away. When it comes to sending in your system for an RMA, or even if you're just moving or storing your system, use the original box and everything to package it properly. It can help to go through the system, and wherever you see large cables kind of plugged into the motherboard, just give them a jiggle, make sure there's no play, make sure they don't come out. You can give them a little tug. There are clips for most of these larger cables that will keep them from coming out if they've been plugged in properly. One that you really want to make note of is up here on the top left, kind of hidden and tucked towards the back. Make sure those are not loose in any way because it's a hard connector to apply, and sometimes that can be overlooked and it's not quite installed properly. The other thing is to make sure that this is a really simple test that you can do. Okay, this is something you want to do. Okay, just do this carefully. Okay, I don't hear any screws rattling around in there. I didn't hear any screws rattling around in there, and you don't want to. You definitely don't want to hear screws rattling around in there. The reason is a loose screw can get wedged behind your motherboard and touch this metal to some of the solder joints in there, and you can short out your system. Unlikely that that'll happen, but you certainly don't want to run that risk. So you hear any loose screws in there, you basically have to work this thing around until that thing comes out. And you'll want to check that maybe it's not a loose motherboard screw that came out, something like that. Generally, as long as the motherboard feels pretty secure in there, you can just set it aside. Now, if you don't feel comfortable opening up your system and messing with cables, that's okay. You don't have to. You can try starting up your system, and as long as everything works just fine, then I guess that's okay. The only ones that you really want to be careful of are going to be these up here. So just make sure those are okay. Yeah, you can make sure your RAM sticks right here, memory sticks, are not loose as well. They might jiggle a little bit side to side. That's normal, but that they don't, if you tug them, they don't just come out. Okay? Again, if you don't want to run this cursory examination, you don't have to. It's just nice to do that before you plug it into power. And I do recommend it, but nobody's forcing you. If you're at least a little bit familiar with computers, you might notice there's a little something missing here, or actually, rather, a large something. There's no GPU in this system. What gives? Well, the reason I took the GPU out of the system was to demonstrate one thing. Well, to demonstrate two things. The first thing is that some system integrators will ship your system with the GPU or the graphics card uninstalled. Pretty much because that's the one component that's most likely to be damaged if the system is dropped or dragged or dropped off a bridge or whatever. So that's usually why you'll see Instapack in there, but that's not always the best solution. And some companies like iBuyPower will let you know when you're purchasing your system with the yellow covered like message there, this system will ship with the graphics card uninstalled for instructions on how to install it. You click this link and you get a PDF and it tells you how to do it. But I'm going to show you how to do it right now. That's the second thing I want to demonstrate is this little goodie that AMD sent me. And this is aside from what we're doing today, but I just wanted to show this to you because it's very cool. I promise, I'm not flexing. I mean, I just think this thing is awesome and I wanted to show it to you guys. This is actually AMD's collaboration with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, their Radeon RX 7900 XT Special Edition. And I just wanted to use this to demonstrate in here because the colors are perfectly matched to the system. Check this thing out. 4K gaming, 24 gigs of VRAM in a not massive form factor and thermally reactive paint on here. It's insane. Really cool lighting on this thing, absolutely awesome. And I know of a few content creators who are hosting giveaways for these. This one is actually for a special build, but there are several content creators like Robitech and a few others that I know that are doing giveaways of these. And if I can find those links, I'll put them in the description below. Go get yourself one because these are, there's 500 of these. So yeah, not gonna be too many. But we're gonna go ahead and show you how to install a graphics card using this monster because man, look at that color matching there. Just awesome. Some systems will actually be set up for you to have a vertical GPU. I have that bracket on order, it's not here yet, so I'm going to show you the normal way. It's more appropriate anyway. First, you're going to want to spot where your GPU is going to go. And it's usually going to be the topmost long slot right here, okay? And if it's a system that was sent to you with your GPU uninstalled on purpose, your PCIe covers, the slot covers right here, will usually already be removed. The other thing is they'll usually already have routed your power cables for you, just like that. So this, like we see here, it's ready to go. So you want to carefully line up all these contacts right here, this part of the PCB sticking out right there. You want to line it up with that slot. So once you've got all that lined up, it should just slot in there, and you want to hear a little light click coming over from the right side of that slot. Now once that's in there, you want to go ahead and support the GPU with your hand while you screw in sort of the middle screw in that bracket there. The top of the bracket will have kind of a U shape on it. That's not going to keep it held up while you're installing the other screw. You want to go ahead and install it into the second one. That's going to be an actual hole through that support bracket. There we go. Nice and solid. Oh, it looks gorgeous with that case. Look at that. Oof. And it's now secured in there, as you can see. All we have to do is plug in the power for it right here. And you're gonna be very careful with this. You wanna make sure it clicks and you can't tug it out, but once you've tested tugging out, just give it a little push back in. So, there we go. And we give it a little test tug, all good. Give it a little push back in, and there it is. And then you can take sort of your any spare cable, sort of push that back, carefully bend it back to where it's not going to be touching your side glass. And we have a complete system now. There it is. Now, since we've installed that, we now have the back of the GPU right here. Now, the reason that's important is because part of setting up your PC is plugging in your monitor. I guarantee you, probably about 90% of trouble calls that come into a system integrator, to their tech support, when someone has just gotten their PC anyway, is because someone took their HDMI cable for their monitor or their DisplayPort cable, either one, and instead of plugging it into the graphics card, you might have plugged it in up here. Now, you might get a picture this way if your CPU, your processor, has integrated graphics. But that's not what you want to use because you want to use a GPU, the graphics card. That's where graphics happen. And that's going to be down here, just like that. So now that you know that, you're skipping out on one of the #1 mishaps that can happen. Now, another thing that may not seem like that big of a mistake right now, but the next time you have a thunderstorm roll through your area or something like that, any kind of power outage, you'll see it for the mistake that it truly is. And that is not using a UPS, or an uninterruptible power supply, sometimes called a battery backup. They can be a bit pricey. And you do need to make sure you get one that can handle the wattage of your system. What that means when you see that wattage, by the way, it doesn't mean your system is constantly going to be pulling 750 watts from the wall. No, no, no. That is the capacity for the power supply. It'll only provide whatever power the system requests, what it's drawing, okay? So usually you're gonna sit at maybe half of that. You also may have noticed when you opened up your PC that there was like a guide to show you how to do exactly what I'm showing you here. But I sometimes feel like a video is a bit more helpful. But say for instance, with the NZXT Player 2 Prime that I reviewed recently, they sent me this baggie right here. Now what was in here? Why is it so important? Well, for a lot of systems, you're gonna get something called a modular power supply. And that means that the power cables that plug into everything in the system aren't permanently attached to the power supply. So what NZXT was kind enough to do was to send all the rest of the power supply cables. So if I want to add anything into the system later, if I'm modifying it or upgrading it later on, or if I'm going to sell the system, which of course, being the owner of the system, I'm within my rights to do, it is imperative that you have all the things that the new buyer might want, including all the power cables for that power supply. So they go ahead and throw that in there. You might have the power cable we're about to plug in that you might have seen me throwing around over here. That one's a long one that's plugged into the wall. That's why I have it, but that you're gonna need that. Now you're also gonna wanna connect your keyboard and mouse. Now this is a Skytech keyboard and Skytech mouse. It's kind of just what comes with the system. Nothing too fancy. Although I will say the mouse is one of the more comfortable ones I've ever gotten for free. But yeah, it's just part of the package. Some system integrators, particularly boutique builders, the ones that are, you know, they build fewer systems, they're not as big of a company, but they put a little bit more time into each one and attention to detail, stuff like that. That's a boutique builder. Usually cost more as well. They're probably not gonna send you that. But I find that sending a set like this is a great way to have kind of a starter pack and sort of a starter kit and backups in case your mouse dies or your keyboard dies. You have something there. And I don't think I need to tell you how to plug in USB, but yeah, take your mouse. They're usually color coded. And here we have a couple that are blue. We have one that's a lighter blue. Sometimes that'll be red, depending on the motherboard. And you'll have the ones that are black on the inside. And those are gonna be the USB 2.0 that are ideal for your peripherals like this. Go ahead and plug your keyboard and mouse into those. There's our mouse, and here, there's our keyboard. Trust me, I know exactly how it is. Cable management can come later, don't worry. No one will judge you. You're excited, and I'm excited for you. Once that's done, there are a couple of other plugs here that you may be very interested in. For instance, if you're using Wi-Fi, meaning you don't have an Ethernet cable to plug in for internet, okay? You're not close to your internet equipment, your router or gateway for your internet service. If your system, your setup is not close to that, you're probably gonna be using Wi-Fi. So you'll probably get a Wi-Fi antenna. So your Wi-Fi antenna might be two of these right here. It's basically a little antenna that is fixed, but you can rotate it some, but it doesn't have an extension. Or you can get the ones that I like a bit more, and you can actually buy directly off of Amazon if you want to upgrade to this. The ones that do have a cable and a magnet right there, so your antenna is not stuck behind your PC trying to fight through all those electronics to get to the signal. Here you can position it wherever it's going to get the best Wi-Fi signal. And then you just screw these into here, and then you're good to go. There's one, and there's two. Now, an additional thing that you're going to want to plug into your system is any kind of source of sound, audio, any speakers that you have. You'll see a green headphone jack right there. That's where you would plug in a normal pair of stereo speakers, okay? Or if you're going to be using a USB headset, you would plug in the USB for that, essentially. So just keep that in mind. You're gonna wanna hear whatever's going on. Now, some monitors will have built-in audio, built-in speakers. And if you're using HDMI, that'll come right through that, no problem. So of course, as I mentioned before, you plug your HDMI into where? Graphics card, because that's where graphics happen, okay? And then finally, we have our C13 power cord, okay? That right there. What you're gonna want to do is make sure that your system is right here in the power supply on the bottom. Switch that to the 0 right there, okay? There's a 1 and a 0, okay? That's your pretty universal power stuff. Just go ahead and flip that to the 0, and it should be, hopefully your system integrator did that for you. And then go ahead and work that power cable in there. Make sure it's fully secure, okay? And fully secure in the wall outlet. Rather, excuse me, in the UPS, if you did get one, okay? And then flip that to the 1. And we now have power running into our system. It is juiced up, ready to go. And then, As you might imagine, we press the power button. I wish I had that vertical GPU bracket right now because I can already see those lights on that GPU. It's gorgeous. And there it is. We have power. Now, of course, this is the time for you to make sure all of your fans look like they're spinning, all of the LEDs are lighting up, okay? And sometimes, one thing that you should pay attention to, okay? Sometimes your system will have some LEDs on there for debugging it. With that in mind, whenever you're calling tech support, if you need any help, they're gonna ask you to find those LEDs and tell them what they look like. If your tech support technician is experienced, they'll go right to that. That's the first thing they'll ask for, is any debug codes pretty much. They might do the whole script where they want you to turn it off and turn it back on again. That's normal. And some companies require them to go through certain scripts, and especially OEMs, which I don't really talk about too much. Your Dell, HP, Lenovo, I don't really go into those too much. We talk about system integrators like iBuyPower, Skytech, Meta PCs, your Main Gear, companies like that. Because they use components that you can just go and buy to replace your parts if need be, or take it to any local repair shop and get it fixed up without any issue and without having to order any proprietary components. After this, when you go into your system, it should pop up with your, it should pop up on your screen there, okay? And it'll usually come up with a Windows sort of welcome screen to help you get started with your account on that, okay? Now, there is a little trick that you can do where you can actually skip all of the bloatware and all of the mess that comes with getting your Windows setup going. And the trick is to actually, when you're choosing your language, choose English Global rather than English North America or US or whatever that option is. I want to remember where that trick came from, who mentioned that, and if I can remember, I'll put it on the screen here. But super awesome. This is something everybody can do. It means less bloatware on your system. But yeah, that's it. This is a system that is ready to go, and I hope this video helped you out. This is the physical setup. That's what we were going over, okay? There are gonna be other videos that I'll be coming out with, like how to check whether XMP is enabled, meaning you're getting your full RAM speed. And some of those things, most of you guys might not even care about, but to me it's important because that way you're actually getting what you paid for. What you'll find is there is gonna be a new series coming out soon. And that series is going to be called Prebuilt, Rebuilt. It's exactly what it sounds like. If you find that you're like, I want more storage, I want to know how to add more storage, cool, I got you. Short video, concise, it'll show you everything you need to know. It's going to be a full series of short, concise videos focused on those topics, and it's going to basically show you how to turn your Prebuilt from whatever it came into nearly a completely different system over time, if getting into upgrading and modding is something that you want to do, which eventually leads to full PC builds. Now, if you never, ever want to take off this side panel again after you've taken out that Instapack, that's fine. And I will not blame you for going that route. You do not need to pursue my hobbies if you don't want to. Just the fact that you're getting into the PC gaming hobby, I'm proud of you. That's already a big leap. If you decide that maybe upgrading your PC or learning how to fix it, or maybe even learning how to eventually build one through those steps is something that you want to do, then Prebuilt Rebuilt is going to be an excellent resource to help you follow that path. Either way, it's still pretty good to know how to do certain things like that, especially if your PC shipped with not quite enough storage for your gigantic Steam library. Who knows? Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can check out the Tech Questions forum in our Discord, where we have volunteer techies that can help you out. If it's still the holidays, they're probably taking a break right now, but they're generally around to help you out. And if you or someone else that you know is looking for a pre-built PC from a company that is reputable, you can check out my channel for the other videos on my channel, where I cover system integrators every week on a show surprisingly called System Integrators Weekly, and on my streams where I help people one-on-one based on their budget and needs. So if any of that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my next uploads. Also scooch over to the side a little bit and hit that like button, because you watched to the end of the video. That means you liked it. Okay, that's gonna be it, guys. Until the next one, take care.